Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. And as Israeli ground forces are poised to begin, at the time of this recording at least, their operations in the Gaza Strip, we thought it would be very useful to take the opportunity to look at historical parallels, in particular urban warfare in recent history. And to discuss this, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Adam Starzyński. Adam, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Now, urban warfare in the modern era is particularly difficult for the attacking forces.
It is. We sit in a city which is a great testimony to how bloody and difficult urban warfare can be. Warsaw held out for 63 days in 1944 during the Second World War, after starting an uprising on August 1st. The Warsaw Uprising was initially planned to hold out for 3-4 days or so before the Soviet Red Army would be able to link up with the fighting forces in central Warsaw. But that did not happen, and instead it ended with 63 days of bloody fighting for the city, which cost tens of thousands of lives of soldiers. And actually, the Poles here suffered more casualties than the Germans, simply despite being the ones holding the territory, so to say, or at least, of course, initially you have to attack to try to expand your territory, but after a while it was a trend of German forces attacking. Nevertheless, the Poles were, they were not an army in that sense of the word. They had a very different access to weapons than the Germans had, and this made it much more difficult for them. If we look at parallels with Gaza, then I guess there are some similarities. In this way, naturally, the Polish Home Army was a part of the Polish government in exile, which in turn represented the Polish state. But that was de jure, so to say. De facto, the reality was such that the Poles had been occupied by the Germans ever since 1939, and even though they had not signed any surrender, they did not have access to the full capabilities that are offered by a state. So they were, in one way you could say, a non-state actor, or NSA as they call it. This is a similar situation you have in the Gaza Strip currently, where even if Hamas has received a lot of weapons and funding from Iran, it's worth noting that up until 2005 it was Saudi Arabia that played that role. However, due to American pressure, the Saudis had to withdraw from that role, and instead that void was filled by Iran, which is quite interesting considering that the Iranian mullahs in Tehran are also Islamist, just like Hamas, but nevertheless they are of the Shia faith, while Hamas is Sunni, and originally an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. That
we said before, the interesting historical point about the Muslim Brotherhood is of course how in Arab countries, particularly Egypt, it had been, and Iraq, it had been prescribed by the then leaders as being trouble causers who ought not to be allowed any power at all.
Absolutely. It's a bit of a side story here, but it's worth wandering into, because the Muslim Brotherhood, even if you hear naturally so much in recent years, I guess for young viewers, they might not even have heard about the Muslim Brotherhood. They will have heard about ISIS, about Al-Qaeda, but the Muslim Brotherhood flies a little bit below the radar. But at the same time, it is the oldest and the original Islamist organization, founded in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna in Cairo, in Egypt, and later spread to large parts of the Arab world. They have historically had maybe a less militant approach than some of these other Islamist organizations. that have more focused on using terrorism as a method of gaining power. The Muslim Brotherhood has been more focused on trying to capture state institutions and take over countries. But nevertheless, in some circumstances, they have also been willing to use militant methods. So it is from this route that Hamas comes, and they have been even more militant, naturally, than the Muslim Brotherhood.
Adam, alas, the clock in the corner of the studio is flashing at me that time is up, so if we may ask you to pause there and we'll pick up the story next time. There we are. I've had to interrupt Adam almost in mid-sentence, but fear not, if you join us next time, as we hope you will, we'll continue the story. In the meantime, thank you for watching Poland Daily History.